Hello, everybody. I'm Rainbow, and welcome to Dimensional Walking. Today is going to be a little bit of a hodgepodge of stuff that I've gathered together. Sometimes I watch quite a few videos, and I'm doing my research, trying to go online and look for different things. And I think the reason being is because of the different dreams that I have when I'm in the dimensional walking state. And I'm trying to figure out as far as how we live our daily lives, what affects it the most? What affects us the most? Has anything been happening to where we're influenced? And I think it's obvious that we do become influenced, especially when we are watching videos and watching movies and looking at different shows where there could possibly be things that influence our subconscious. So, what I want to do is just first start out by making talking about something that Socrates stated that I think is really important. And Socrates stated that in like manner, the muse first of all inspires men herself because they are inspired and possessed. They are simply inspired to either that which the muse impels them. For not by art or knowledge do you say what you say, but by possession. And then Oscar Wilde stated, man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he will tell you the truth. So, the reason why I wanted to bring these two, um, I think, really good quotes is because bring them about is because there's a lot going on in different videos, and there's a lot of talk about who is doing what, who is in an occult, who is doing satanic stuff, who is doing spells, who is doing actual ceremonies in front of people without them knowing. Now, the big question here is if you don't know you're watching a ceremony to Satan, does that mean that because of your ignorance you're not a part of it and that there's no damage? There's nothing that is going to happen because you're watching it and you don't even know what you're looking at. In this case, I don't necessarily think that ignorance is bliss. I think they know what they're doing. I think when you look at the Super Bowl and you look at the different the shows that they have at intermission in between, the first half and the second half, they do things and they try to get away with as much as possible because I think the fine art mm, of hiding in plain sight is actually doing things like that in plain sight without anybody knowing. I mean, when you can have a ceremony and have millions of people watch it, and it's to a specific deity or to Satan himself, what does that do to the consciousness of people watching it? Is there anything subliminal that's happening to people? Is the message in the subconscious? Is there's something being told to people? And that's where the danger happens. It's not that you're partaking in something that you know nothing about, because let's face it, it's you don't if unless you're in the occult in that specific, and you can even call it a religion. If you're into that specific religion, you don't know what's happening or what's going on. But it's the subconscious messages. It's what's being imparted to you without you really knowing it that is the concern for me. Because to me, subliminal messages are the danger here. And within the symbols and the signs and within the words, and words have power, what tends to happen? Those words have power, and then they're out in the realm of our reality, where not only are we hearing it, we're seeing people do certain acts to make sure something happens, and we don't know what's happening unless, of course, you're into that religion or that cult. So if you look at the different aspects of what we watch on TV, you have to understand that in the music industry and specifically in the movie making industry, that there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes with the people who are controlled to make sure that those performers are doing their part, not only in creating and bringing in money, but they want them to toe the line. They want to make sure that they toe the line. The movie Eyes Wide Shut comes to mind here. Stanley Kubrick, some can say that he died under suspicious circumstances. And he was very paranoid after he made that movie because the secrets of the elite, the secrets of the people in power, they were out. We were able to see what they do. Now, what was really interesting, that most people won't even understand half of what they saw. But if there's anybody who starts looking into it, then we can kind of see the symbology of what they do. And it's integrating people into a specific lifestyle that enslaves them to the people in control. Those people in control at any point in time can pull the plug on their career, make their lives hell, create things in media that doesn't exist, have them put in jail, do all kinds of things. And this is out now. It's coming out more and more. The people who are in control are being called out. Now, these people who are being called out by courageous people who actually were affected by what they did, those who are still alive. The one thing they all have in common is the vulgarity and the the disgusting things that they have people do in order to toe the line. And I think that in the dreams that I've had, where I've had to deal with demons and I fight them because I'm constantly fighting them, the one thing I realize is that they are getting more and more desperate. Because I think the time frame for them being here on this planet and in this and trying to lower the vibration of this planet, I think that time frame is going to be over here shortly. Because the the one thing that happens to people who have nothing to lose is they're going to speak the truth. And if you have a lot of people speaking the truth, and it's the same truth, then you have to take a good look at what's happening. Just like with Epstein, you can't forget all the women, the children who were involved with that, and all the people who came out and spoke the same truth, the same thing. That's what happens is eventually the truth comes to light. Eventually, nothing that can be hidden, and they're going to try to hide it. I mean, that's just the way the people in control do. They think they can hide behind the money that they make. And that's true to a point. But what I'm finding right now is that there's a lot of things happening where there's a bit of confusion in Hollywood because it's not like it used to be. It's not plain black and white and no in between. There's a lot of in between now, especially with the people who have come out and have stated that, people affected their careers. In fact, their careers went nowhere. I think the important thing to realize here is that you can't always believe the fantasy of what is being sold to us. Because if we believe in that fantasy, then we start putting blinders on to the reality of what happens behind the scenes. And that's the important thing here. And I think that the important thing is to understand that people who are involved in Hollywood are going to do everything possible to hide the truth. I think the interesting thing is what's promised to people in the beginning. Now, when I was in California, it was rough. I was in my motorhome, didn't have a lot of money, and it was when I was trying to get around and get into restaurants and perform and to dance. One day, I'm sitting by the motorhome and it broken down. And I had phoned my parents and I said, I'm in my, let's see, I'm in my 20s at this point, late 20s. And because I was trying to make a start in a dance career in California in all the Middle Eastern restaurants because I was a Middle Eastern dancer. And anyway, so I didn't have enough money to pay the mechanic for a part that kept breaking on this motorhome continually. It just kept breaking. And the people who sold me the motorhome knew this, but they failed to tell me that it would just continually break. So, anyway, the money came in and we were able to get the mechanic to work on the motorhome on the side street over by Studio City. And it was actually a location where this restaurant called Residuals was, because I remember going in there and taking the mechanic in for a drink afterwards. But what happened was really interesting, and it's not that far-fetched from what I've heard of other things happening to people in California. I was sitting on the grass waiting for the mechanic to get done. I was probably reading a book or just hanging out in the sun when a car pulled up, and it pulled actually onto it was a Cadillac, and it drove onto the grass, and I had to move really quickly because it almost looked like it was going to hit me. Two men come out and they're rough. They're rough looking. And this one guy looked like he was going to come grab me. And I went walking over to the motorhome because I wasn't that far from it. This guy goes, "I want you in movies. I want to put you in movies. I'm a movie producer." And then he has a wallet and he has the plastic card holder that just kind of fell down and it was like this long. And he had, as far as he was letting me know, he had all these credentials and he's going to make me a star and he's going to do all this stuff. And they were just, scuzzy. They just were not, something was wrong about them. And if my boyfriend at the time and the mechanic wouldn't have been there, they would have abducted me. So I go, obviously walking really quickly over to where they're at, and they're talking to my boyfriend, and they're looking at this as, well, there's two of us and there's one of him and her. And they were kind of big guys, like over 6 foot. And the one guy who was said he was the producer, was telling, he was kind of overweight, and he was telling my boyfriend at the time that he wanted me in movies and that he was going to just, I was the look he wanted. I was, I had a certain look and he liked it. And the guy was coming around, his friend, and I could tell that he was probably going to try to come and grab me. And they were going to probably both at a certain point, go at my boyfriend if they couldn't get me, because all I knew is I was going to run. Well, the mechanic who, was born or raised in California, as was my boyfriend, but he understood what was happening and he had a big wrench about this big. And he had it in his hand and he kept smacking it in his hand. And he came walking around the motorhome and he looked at those two guys and he told them that they needed to go. And so when they realized there were two guys, and then I could just go into the motorhome and hide, they backed away. And the guy saying, "Well, you've just ruined a great chance to be in movies and da 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 da." And I was scared. What was amazing to me is how quick it happened. I mean, these guys were scouting out young girls and they thought I was by myself, by a motorhome, and if I wouldn't have had anybody around me, they would have would have taken me, and there would have been probably it would have been nothing like what they were portraying. It was probably human trafficking is what they probably would have done. But the interesting thing about this this situation is that I was warned by the medicine people that I was with that I had to be extremely careful in California because it's a different kind of energy and a different kind of uh, predatory energy to it. So, they just said you're going to have to be careful. And, I just didn't pay any mind to it because I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm, yeah, I'm safe. I'm going to be with my boyfriend and not worrying about anything. But throughout my whole experience there, I learned really rough lessons because California is not an easy teacher. And those people who are in control, if you don't toe the line, they will just eat you up and spit you out. And so even though, I was making good money and it was something that I really wanted to do, I realized that I just couldn't stay there. It wasn't going to work for me because I was just a fish out of water there. It just there's nothing spiritual there. There is nothing that gave the sense of light and love, and so that's something that I just I had to leave. Years later, I was back in New Mexico, and I was thinking of traveling to Las Vegas because Las Vegas, I had some friends who had danced in Las Vegas. They made great money and they thought I would do wonderful. I had somebody who wanted to manage me, take me to Vegas. And at the time, I was working in a boutique, a clothing boutique in Old Town, Albuquerque. And I was talking to the one of my colleagues that was I was working with about going to Vegas, and a man had been inside with his wife and he was just walking around as she's shopping around, and it was a high-end boutique, so a lot of really pretty clothes. And he'd heard me talk to my friend about possibly going to Vegas. I was thinking of going in a couple weeks. And he looks at me and he said, "Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but I need to tell you something." He said, "Please don't go to Vegas." He goes, "I'm from Las Vegas and I'm asking you to please don't go to Vegas." And I'm looking at him and I said, "Why?" And so he told me, he said that it's a rough place. He said, "You're a lovely gal." He said, "You're probably talented." He said, "It's not the place for someone like you. Please don't go." He said, "Women go there and some of them become missing and a lot of them get used." And he said, "I'm not saying that that's going to happen to you." He said, "What I'm saying is that you need to stay where you're at." He said, it's, he said, and he's basically told me it was an evil place. And he just said, "Please think about what I told you. Just don't go to Vegas." And I was really grateful because I almost felt like it was my guardian angel speaking through this man telling me not to go because I actually had like little red flags in my gut. And you know how we're always telling you, I know I've said it in a few videos, please follow your gut. This was one time where I wasn't probably going to because I thought, "Well, hey, I'm not stupid. I know the ropes. I know what I'm doing." It's not about that. It's about predators knowing that you have this idea in your head that you want to make it big or you want to make at least a living with what you're doing, your dream, and they're going to take that and they're going to run with it and they're going to take you along and use you as much as possible, make as much money off of you as possible. So I realized that the influence on social media, the control that's there, the experience I had when I was in California versus and Vegas is not going to Vegas. I have been to Vegas, and I have to agree with this guy. After I heard what he said, I wholeheartedly agree with him. But the important thing here that I wanted to get across is that we have to be vigilant nowadays. We really do, because I think the dark side isn't doing as well as they thought they would. And I believe that those of us who are understanding what's going on, we have to be vigilant and we have to be aware of our surroundings. And there's this idea that being awoke is they're trying to make this awoke thing negative. Being awake and aware doesn't mean that you use it for personal gain or you use it for your personal opinions. It's a consciousness kind of thing where you're aware of what's happening in the world today. That's basically, to me, what that means. It's not something that can be taken and used as ammunition for targeted opinions. Targeting people with your opinions is what I meant. So, anyways, I just wanted to get this across that there's certain things that are happening, I think, in the media, and be aware of if you have a gut feeling about something that you're watching that doesn't feel quite right. I mean, there's conference people have gone to where they said there was a lot of occultish type stuff happening, and you have to decide if that's something that you want to be a part of. Because the the thing here is that we're at a time in history where we're going to make it or we're going to break it, and I want to make it. I want to get to the place where we live good lives. Our children can live good lives and our grandchildren can live good lives. So let's try to get there. Be aware of what's happening and understand that if you see anything on TV that looks like it could possibly be a ritual, something that it looks like it's a little bit dark, something that's odd, and it makes you feel uncomfortable, then you don't need to watch it. I'm not saying, go out there and look at everything and observe it and go, oh, should I watch this or shouldn't I? I'm not saying be paranoid about it. What I'm saying is just look at it and just understand that there's things that are done subliminally to us we don't know about, and they think they're getting away with it. And what I'm saying is that let's not let them. If the truth is starting to come out about a lot of stuff that's happening, let's also let them know that they're not going to get to us in subliminal messages. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for stopping by and watching and listening to my video. This is kind of a hodgepodge again, but it's some stuff that's on my mind. So you guys take care. Thank you for watching. As always, we really appreciate that. And thank all of you who have subscribed. I know we're kind of a mom and pop kind of channel. We're not, sophisticated or anything, but we do appreciate you guys who do subscribe. You have comments. I like comments. I do like comments. Come on in and tell me what you think. And if you have experiences, let all of us know. Comment down below. So take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.